Alright, welcome back to Kamen Rider Review. Yes, Kamen Rider Review, episode 177. You're thinking, why are you bringing this back? You're not doing Kamen Rider series when you work on Sentai. Well, I decided to watch this particular movie, because I was very interested in it. This one is called Super Attention GP Kamen Rider 3. This movie has features pretty much all the Kamen Riders feature at this point. Like every single one. Except for like two. I think except for Shin and Zio. By the time this movie came out. Excuse me. Now, I should point out that the only characters we focus on the entire movie is Kamen Rider Drive, Mech, Fives. Yes, he's in the movie. Blade. His supporting cast. Well, basically his other writers from his show. There's an actor from Den-O here. Yes, despite the fact Den-O does not play a role in the movie, more like one of his supporting writers do. Of course, the first two writers, they do appear in the movie a couple times. We do see a lot of the Showa writers. We see them at first. Like, the only one that took a while to show up in the movie was Super 1 and ZX. These two took a long time appear in this movie. Yes, they do. So, the movie starts out with basically now, also because Sentai is involved, but it's one team and they pop up toward the end of the movie. And the movie itself is reminiscent of the anniversary movie that aired a few years prior to the movie coming out, except that Shocker was a bit more successful at altering history with this one. Yes, because they do alter history in this movie. Her Drive eliminate one of the villains from his show, and then we have a scene that we see not once, not twice, but 3 times. Where, basically, we have the chief asking, like, everyone asks, where's Kato and Kiko? First 2 times, they're on the scene. 3rd time, they're missing. And I'm like, why in the world do we have to have this scene play out 3 times? I don't know. It's weird. So, after, of course, the monster, the Ramadan, and then all of a sudden, a green light shines on the area, and then all of a sudden, history is altered, where Shocker has taken over the world. They do, in fact, before this, have a scene where they accurately recreate the final scene from the final episode of the original Kamen Rider series, we have the double riders face off against the great leader of Shocker. Yeah. So they defeated Shocker versus the Orb, like, oh, world saved. And then all of a sudden a car drives up. Yes, a car drives up, and here comes Kamen Rider 3, who made his first chronological appearance in the Ninjanger versus Drive Plus Drive 1 hour special, where he fights Rider 1 and 2 and kills them. Yep, he kills them. By the way, his suit itself, when I first saw this suit, especially in the special, I'm like, this suit looks very familiar. Because I have seen an image of Kamen Rider 1 wearing this very suit. Though he has a red scarf, not yellow scarf like this guy does. Um, Also reminded me a lot of the style of suit they used for Shin Kamen Rider. You know, the movie that came out a couple years ago. Yeah. So he defeats him with a Raider kick, and then that's when history is altered. So then, of course, we have monsters show up. Actually, we have basically like a racetrack, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, kids initiated into Shocker, the Young Brigade, because this is a retread from the series. Like, oh, initiating Shocker Youth, and then Kamen Black shows up. Yes, Kotaro, and he transforms into black. And then, of course, he battles the monsters. He battles Drive briefly because they think, oh, he's going to fight the Raiders. And for reasons unexplained here, it's assuming that it was altered with the timeline. But how is he still Drive? This makes no sense. Of course, Kiko, it's implied that the reason why maybe she was completely affected with the timeline is because she was standing next to Drive. Somehow it's not very clear of how in the world that she was able to be completely unaltered. So then, of course, they start fighting. Of course, the monsters show up here, which one of them happened to include Gentma, who turns out is actually the cheetah monster from the ZX movie. Yeah, he was made into this thing for some reason. Not sure why, but he was. I should list off all the monsters for this movie. Like, every single monster. We have General Black. Cheetah Gosari, I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, this is a alternate version of the character. Excuse me. There's also Gordana, who actually is Ambassador Hell in monster form. Yep. There is Zenja. Some of these monsters actually are from, like, the first few monsters, the next monster name are all from the original Kamen Rider series. Some are from Rider X, one's from a couple from ZX, some from Decade, Double. So we have Zenja, Smoking, Poison Lizardman, the Grisams. With Star Comet, and they actually see the more popular one, the one that look like luchadors with the skeleton thing. Plus, they included the original version that was first they've been seen since the 70s. We have Turtle Bazooka, obviously. He's from V3. The National Comet Man. We also have General Shadow, which, if you're curious, does he fight stronger? Surprisingly, no. There's also Martial Machine. He's also from Stronger as well. Combat Rods. These guys are from ZX. Hypebeast Durdum from Kamen Rider Black. General Jark from RX, which I'll get back to him. There is Sirwan. He is actually from the world of RX, from Kamen Rider Decade. The chaps are from, I believe they're from ZX. Yes, they're from ZX. They make a turn in the V. There is N. Gemel Zeta from Kamen Rider Decade. That's where he's from. But he's in the world of Kuga. Lobster Akman, who is a monster from Fives. Weather Despot. This is the one from W. Super Galaxy King, who's an O's villain and a 4Z villain. Sagittarius Nova, who is from 4Z. And Phoenix, a villain from Wizard. Yep. And General Black does appear, like, I'm very happy to see him, despite I guess it's not the same actor per se. But it's always good to see General Black. He's a really cool villain. It's surprising we only featured 2 of the classic villains. Like, we actually do not see Dr. Death here, surprisingly. Thinking, really? No Dr. Death? Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. So, they proceed to get away, thanks to the help of Kamen Rider 3. And then they're confronted by V3, Rider Man, and of course then they run into Amazon, Stronger, Skyrider. And then the last 2 of the Showa era they run into is ZX and Super 1 shows up a little later when they fight him. And they eventually fight a lot of the Heisei era riders. And then at one point 4Z randomly shows up, he shoots at them. It's like, who is he? Oh, he's coming to 4Z. Deke I knew right away who he was because I've seen the suit before. A lot of the other ones I had to guess who the heck these people were. Like, we do see covered Hibiki. Blade is briefly captured, though it turns out he's actually brainwashed. Along with Kamen Rider Chance and Linga. Chance is from Kamen Rider Blade. Linga, he is also from Kamen Rider Blade as well. But Zenros, Kamen Rider Zenros, he's actually one of the very few ones who actually is not brainwashed. And, like, he doesn't trust, of course, 3, which his appearance is a complete nod to the classic Showa era. And there's a joke at one point when we met first him and Zeros as Gramps. Despite the fact Zeros is not that old. Not that really. He's actually from Dano. Yeah, and here's the thing about when he appeared in this movie. He was only 27. You're like, really? Yeah, really. Yeah, and Mech shows up. Somehow he's completely altered by the timeline altering effects. Yeah, for him it's not very clear, like, why he is not affected, but everyone else is. And in the course of they're battling a bunch of writers, they have it where Zeros, he actually gets to the writer town that they've been trying to get to a lot of the movie. And then he gets to a mansion where it's talking about the Hongo estate, which I'm like, since when the writer one was rich? Like, there was no mention of him being power of wealth. It just said he was a scientist. So, and doors open, and then, oh look, it's, and of course the butler who identifies himself as Tachibana. And so I'm like, no you're not, because Tachibana's dead. I knew right away this wasn't Tachibana. Because he's not a freaking butler. He's a mentor. I knew obviously this wasn't the real guy, and turns out this was General Black in disguise. And we had this neural net. And then it turns out this neural net, which they think contains the consciousness of Rider 1 and Rider 2. Excuse me. Turns out this actually is the great leader of Shocker. Yep. Where, like, oh yeah, they're not here, so like they actually are. Then he goes up, and then of course you have where apparently, like, after doing some research about the basic Kamen Rider 3, so then Drive shows up in his suit, not the outfit he was wearing previously. So then he challenges Kamen Rider 3 to a race with their cars and a bunch of the other riders who are brainwashed, and win. They free all the raiders, and of course they free the kids. and they race. And then but probably at one point you see Kotaro die, then he comes back as RX later on, which I'm kind of glad they didn't do the same thing they did with the last time they had pop up, which was have them split the two separate writers for some weird reason. I have heard a theory of why they did that, because the tone of RX is completely different from Black. So they felt as though the RX, despite being a sequel show, feels like it's a completely different show. And plus, he transforms into black because he wears a black outfit, and then when he transforms to RX, he wears white because they wore white in RX. And then we have Kamen Rider Chaser just randomly pop up here. He is actually a character from Drive. Yeah, he's brainwashed. And we see Double World looks like he drives a giant, oh my gosh, it looks like something out of Mad Max with the heck he drives. And you have it where Kamen Rider 3 is like basically taking all of his other writers, but looking up basically then Drive transforms because it's all Grand P, and then they're going to lose, and of course you have the kids cheering, and of course people turning on the Shocker troops. So then of course basically then the writers start fighting each other. And then this history out of the machine transforms into a giant robot right after he takes Kamen Rider 3. And then they fight each other. At one point, someone get erased. Jay pops up a couple times, but yeah, Kamen Rider Jay. First time was when he brainwashed. Second time, and then during the course, oh ha, basically is I'm gonna race you guys, and you're not racing our writers. You're not going to do anything. And then here's Rider 1 and Rider 2 get revived, and somehow their revival removes all the brainwashing. And eventually Kamen Rider 3 frees himself, and then of course it turns into a massive brawl. At one point you have RX fighting General Jark, and he's the only person he fights this whole scene. Now I'm okay, so one of his villains from Black is being destroyed by one of their writers, but why in the world is he just fighting General Jark? Why? Because he's a villain from his show, so only he can defeat General Jark? Heck, they have basically General Black getting killed by mech. Yes, seriously. You have a villain from the original Kamen Rider series getting killed by one of the modern day writers. And then supposedly he's killed off here by several monsters, but then eventually the monster's destroyed by everybody else. And then oh crap, how do we deal with this giant robot? And that's when Ninja Hunter shows up. They transform, oh cool, ninjas. Different attitude they have for the special. As a matter of fact, this movie takes place before the special. We have randomly, oh look, here's the last ninja make a cameo. And then of course, let's have some of their mech battle the Shocker leader in his robot form. And then here's a shuriken he can use. He puts on his wheel, and then Drive goes into the Megazord, which he's a second writer to do that after 4Z did it in the second Tension movie. And it's one thing they had to destroy this one Kamen Rider 3 be erased, but everyone remember him somehow. So then Shocker Leader is destroyed. This machine is destroyed, and then of course he's revived in the real timeline where he's actually a Formula 1 racer. Okay, interesting. But all in all, this movie was actually pretty good. One thing I didn't like about this movie is that you have Kamen Rider Gim, the preceding writer to Drive, and he's reduced to basically a punching bag. He gets beaten up, he basically is tossed aside. Yeah, that's how you treat basically your previous writer. It's he's treated as a joke in this movie, Kamen Rider Gim. Some of the other writers don't get anything to do. And by the way, Super One does not speak in this movie. And this is probably because basically people were slowly finding out his eventual actor is a freaking scumbag. This was 2 years prior before when he went on the run. For misleading people a bunch of stuff. but timeline restored. But then the movie leads into a web series, Kamen Rider 4. Will I watch right now? No, I probably watch it when I watch Drive. But that series, believe it or not, that web show is noteworthy for being the final appearance of the Shocker leader ever in Kamen Rider. My guess is because he was getting worn out, so I guess they were just running out of ideas for him, because they just celebrated the 40th anniversary a few years prior to the events of the show, like a few years prior to the release of this movie, and they decided to just do that. The Ninja Hunter cast, unlike in the case of Special, which they have purpose being there, this movie feels like they're just randomly inserted because a movie is called Tension, so we had included a Sentai team, so let's throw in the current team on the air right now at that point. Yep. But yeah, that's pretty much that particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. It's going to be a while before I get back to Kamen Rider, so I'm going to hold off my comic corner and just go ahead and watch some of my anime. Watch 3 anime and then do 2 episodes of Ninja Hunter and I'll have 3 more anime. And the first anime being is going to be The Rise of Shitiro. Okay, thanks, Phil. Bye.